You've been lied to. Your whole life, you were told that keeping your money in the bank is the safest thing to do. That as long as your cash is sitting in a savings account, neatly stacked, quietly waiting, you're being responsible. But what if I told you that keeping all your cash in the bank is actually one of the riskiest things you can do? Because while your money sleeps, inflation doesn't. While your cash collects pennies in interest, the cost of living is quietly marching up like a thief in the night, stealing your purchasing power, month after month, year after year. This is exactly why the wealthy don't store all their money in the bank. They know better. They play a different game entirely. In this video, we're going to break down 7 safer, smarter assets the wealthy use to protect and multiply their money. And no, this isn't financial advice. This is a wake-up call. Make sure to pay extra attention to Part 8. It might just be the best place for you to start. Part 1. Why cash in the bank isn't safe anymore. Let's get something straight. The bank is not your friend. Your savings account might feel safe, but if it's earning you 1 to 3% interest per year, and inflation is 4, 5, or even 8% per year, you're losing money in real time. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average annual inflation rate from 2020 to 2022 was 6.3%. Meanwhile, Bank of America's high-yield savings account offers just 0.01% APY. Now do the math. You're losing purchasing power every single day. Your cash just sits there. But that's not even the scariest part. What if the bank fails? What if there's a run on the bank? What if there's a financial crisis and access to your money gets restricted? Sound far-fetched? It's not. In 2023 alone, 3 U.S. banks collapsed, including Silicon Valley Bank, the second largest bank failure in U.S. history. So ask yourself, if the safest place for your money isn't the bank, where do you put it? Let's look at what the wealthy do. Part 2. The 7 safer assets the wealthy use instead. 1. Treasury inflation-protected securities. Tips. The rich don't just worry about returns, they worry about preservation. That's why many turn to TIPS bonds issued by the U.S. government that automatically adjust with inflation. When inflation goes up, the principal of your bond goes up too. And because they're backed by the U.S. Treasury, TIPS are among the safest investments on the planet. It's not about getting rich. TIPS are about not getting poor. You can buy them directly from the government at treasurydirect.gov. Second, I-bonds. These are a hidden gem. I-bonds are another government-issued asset that pay interest based on 2 components, a fixed rate and a rate that changes with inflation. When inflation is high, your returns go up. In 2022, I-bonds were paying 9.62%, risk-free. The catch? You can only buy up to $10,000 per year per person. But the wealthy don't mind. They just spread it across their family or trust accounts. Again, available at treasurydirect.gov. 3. Gold and precious metals. Gold is the OG of wealth preservation. It's not about yield, it's about stability. For centuries, gold has outlived governments, currencies, and empires. When everything else crashes, gold survives. That's why the ultra-wealthy always keep a portion of their net worth in physical gold or ETFs like GLD. Worried about banking collapses or currency devaluation? Gold doesn't care. It's a global hedge against chaos. 4. Real estate, income producing. When the wealthy park their money, they don't want it idle. They want it working. That's why they love income-generating real estate. Think rental apartments, commercial office spaces, short-term Airbnbs, real estate investment trusts, if they want passive exposure. Real estate offers cash flow, tax advantages, and inflation protection because rents typically rise with inflation. In 2023, Blackstone, the world's largest private equity firm, had over $330 billion in real estate assets. They know exactly what they're doing. 5. Whole life insurance. Cash value accounts. This one surprises people, but wealthy families use life insurance like a bank, specifically dividend-paying whole life policies with cash value. You can borrow against the cash value to invest, pay for emergencies, or fund opportunities without ever liquidating your policy. It's called infinite banking, and it's a key strategy in wealth preservation. Your money grows tax-deferred, you can access it tax-free, and it's protected from market volatility. Sounds boring? Maybe, but boring builds wealth. 6. Short-term treasury bills. T-bills. T-bills are a go-to for billionaires parking millions in cash. Why? Because they're liquid, secure, and right now, they're actually paying. In 2024, 3-month T-bills were yielding over 5%. Compare that to your savings account at Chase. Night and day, you can buy T-bills from your brokerage account or directly from the government. No hidden fees, no fine print. If this sounds like something worth investing in, let me know in the comments. 7. Money market funds. This is where the smart money stashes short-term cash. Money market funds are not the same as savings accounts. They invest in ultra-safe instruments like T-bills, commercial paper, and repurchase agreements. The result? Higher yields with bank-like stability. In 2024, Vanguard's money market fund VMFXX was yielding over 5.2%. You can access your funds quickly with almost no risk of loss. Part 3. The game the rich play. Here's the truth. The wealthy don't trust banks. They use them for transactions, not storage. Instead of letting cash sit idle, they deploy it into safe, liquid, and inflation-beating assets. They think like capital allocators, not savers, and that mindset makes all the difference. Want to be wealthy? Start thinking like they do. Don't keep all your eggs in one basket, especially not the one that's cracking under inflation. Part 4. How the wealthy strategically allocate these assets. Let's talk strategy, because it's not just what the rich invest in, it's how much, how often, and why. The average millionaire doesn't randomly sprinkle cash across assets. They build what's called an all-weather portfolio, designed to perform in any economic condition. Let's break down how the wealthy often divide their money among the 7 assets we just covered. 10 to 15% in tips and I-bonds, 10 to 20% in gold and precious metals, 30 to 40% in real estate, 10 to 15% in cash value life insurance, 10 to 15% in T-bills and money market funds. This structure gives them liquidity, inflation protection, and income, all while minimizing risk. So let's look closer. Tips and I-bonds, the inflation defense layer. Most people don't even know these exist, but the wealthy use these as a counterweight to inflation. And when inflation runs hot, they increase their allocation. Let's say inflation spikes unexpectedly like it did in 2022. While most portfolios took a hit, I-bond holders were cashing in on a 9.62% risk-free return. No guesswork, no stock market roller coaster. It's boring, but boring works when chaos hits. Gold, the chaos hedge. Gold isn't about getting rich, it's about not getting wiped out. When the dollar weakens, when banks wobble, when geopolitical tension spikes, gold rallies. In fact, during the 2008 financial crisis, while the S&P 500 plunged over 50%, gold gained nearly 25%. That's why billionaires like Ray Dalio and Stanley Druckenmiller always hold gold, not because it's flashy, but because it survives. They're not betting on gold, they're hedging against the failure of everything else. Real estate, the wealth multiplier. Want to know why 90% of millionaires own real estate? Because it's the only asset class that offers passive cash flow, long-term appreciation, tax advantages, inflation protection, leverage potential. Let's do quick math. You buy a $300,000 rental property with 20% down $60,000. If rent brings in $2,000 a month, that's $24,000 a year in gross income. That is a 40% return on your down payment before expenses. Now let's say the property appreciates 5% per year. That's another $15,000 per year in equity. And if you depreciate the asset on your taxes, you might legally pay almost no taxes on the income. This is why the rich stack real estate like chess pieces. It doesn't just preserve wealth, it builds it. And for those who want in without dealing with tenants, they go for REITs like VNQ or O. Whole life insurance, the hidden bank account. When most people hear life insurance, they think death benefits. The wealthy hear tax-free loans, asset protection, and multi-generational wealth. A properly structured dividend-paying whole life policy builds cash value over time. That cash grows tax-deferred, and you can borrow against it tax-free even while it keeps compounding. This is what the Rockefellers used, what Walt Disney used, what J.C. Penney used. In fact, Walt Disney funded Disneyland using policy loans from his whole life insurance. This is not some fringe tactic. It's just not taught to the average person. T-bills and money market funds. The new savings accounts. When banks were paying 0.01%, the wealthy were parking millions in short-term treasury bills, paying 5% plus. Think about that. Let's say you've got $1 million sitting in cash. At Chase, you'd make $100 a year in interest. In T-bills or VMFXX, you'd make over $50,000. Same safety, 500 times the return. These aren't investments. These are upgraded savings accounts. And the best part, they're liquid. You can get your money back in days, not months. Part 5. The psychological edge of asset allocation. Here's something nobody talks about. These assets don't just protect your money, they protect your mindset. When the stock market crashes, most people panic sell because that's all they own. But when 60 to 70% of your wealth is in assets that don't care about the stock market, you stay calm. You're not emotionally hijacked. And staying calm, that's the ultimate financial edge. Wealthy investors don't panic because they know their bases are covered. Tips cover inflation, gold covers collapse, real estate covers income, insurance covers liquidity, T-bills cover cash. This is what separates the rich from the rest. It's not intelligence, it's allocation. Part 6. How the average person can start with just $100. Here's where most people give up. They hear wealthy strategies and assume it's only for people with 6 or 7 figures lying around. Wrong. You can start this today with as little as $100. Open a Treasury Direct account and buy a $100 I-bond. Buy fractional gold via OneGold or Vaulted. Use apps like Fundrise to invest in real estate with $10. Start a money market fund through Vanguard, Fidelity, or Schwab. You don't need wealth to start building like the wealthy. You just need direction. Part 4. Why the wealthy rarely keep more than 10% in cash. There's a rule you'll rarely hear spoken aloud, but almost every wealthy person follows it. Cash is for emergencies. Assets are for wealth. Let that sink in. Most millionaires don't keep more than 5 to 10% of their net worth in cash. And even that portion is usually strategic. Why? Because cash rots. Ray Dalio, founder of the world's largest hedge fund, Bridgewater Associates, put it best: cash is trash. That's not hyperbole. That's the voice of someone managing $150 billion in assets. See, when inflation rises, cash loses value. When interest rates rise, cash misses out. When opportunity knocks, cash is usually the slowest to respond. Meanwhile, assets move, assets grow, assets protect. And if you're thinking, okay, but I'm not rich yet, that's exactly the point. You need your money working even harder. Which brings us to the hidden cost of holding cash. Part 5. The opportunity cost nobody talks about. Let's say you have $10,000 sitting in your bank account. It's safe, right? Earning maybe 0.5% annually. That's $50 per year before taxes. Now imagine you had put that same $10,000 into a short-term treasury bill yielding 5%. That's $500 per year. A money market fund like VMFXX, around $520 per year. An I-bond during a high inflation year, up to $962 per year, same $10,000. Radically different outcomes. That gap between what you could have earned versus what you actually earned, that's called opportunity cost, and it silently drains your wealth over time. It's not just about losses, it's about missing gains. Now multiply that effect over 10 years and multiple 6-figure savings accounts, and you start to see why the wealthy never let their cash sit idle. They deploy it with intention. Part 6. How the wealthy stay liquid without holding cash. Here's the kicker. Wealthy people stay liquid without holding large amounts of traditional cash. How? They use cash equivalents and liquid assets. These are instruments that behave like cash, meaning you can access them quickly, but with way better returns. Let's break it down. Bank savings accounts. These are highly liquid, meaning you can withdraw anytime. But the downside? The average yield in 2024 is embarrassingly low, just 0.01% to 0.50%. It's safe, yes, but your money barely grows. Money market funds, still highly liquid, but with a major upgrade. In 2024, many are yielding between 4.5% and 5.5%. That's 10 times more than traditional savings accounts without increasing risk. Treasury bills, T-bills. These are government-backed securities with medium to high liquidity, depending on the term. Yields are currently around 5% and the risk almost zero. The US government has never defaulted on a T-bill. I-bonds, a favorite during inflationary times. They offer up to 9.62% in interest, but there's a catch. Your money is locked for at least 12 months. So they're not fully liquid, but they're extremely secure. Whole life insurance, cash value. This is a long-term play. These policies grow tax-deferred at around 4% to 6%, and the cash value can be accessed like a line of credit. It's not instantly liquid, but it offers stability and optionality. Two things the wealthy love. These instruments allow the rich to keep their optionality, the ability to pounce on an opportunity without sacrificing growth. It's a balancing act between liquidity, yield, and safety. And if you're wondering how they keep track of all this, Part 7. They use family offices and asset maps, not bank apps. The wealthy don't rely on bank apps to manage their wealth. They build asset maps. Think of it like a digital blueprint showing where each dollar is parked, what it's earning, what its risk level is, how fast it can be accessed, and if their net worth is high enough, they hire family offices, private wealth management firms that handle everything, from asset allocation to tax strategy to risk mitigation. This isn't checking your Wells Fargo balance once a week. This is financial architecture, the difference between surviving and scaling. Part 8. What you can do today, even with a small amount. You might be thinking, okay, this sounds great for millionaires, but I'm not there yet. That's fair, but that's exactly why this matters. Because the earlier you start thinking like a capital allocator, the faster your wealth can grow. Here's a simple starting point. Emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses in a money market fund. Not a savings account. Short-term goals, 1 to 3 years. Use T-bills, high-yield savings, or CD ladders. Medium-term goals, 3 to 7 years. Mix of I-bonds, real estate ETFs, or conservative mutual funds. Long-term wealth, allocate to stocks, real estate, businesses, and whole life insurance. Don't try to do everything at once. Just move 5% of your idle cash into a smarter, safer vehicle. Even $100 can be the beginning of a different future. You've seen the data, you've heard the warnings, you've watched the banks collapse. So now the question isn't, is my cash safe? It's, what am I doing to make it safer? Start with even 5% or 10% of your savings. Move it into something smarter, because while the masses are sitting still, the wealthy are moving pieces, and they're always 5 steps ahead. So, don't just save like everyone else. Play the game differently. If this video gave you a new perspective on money, give it a like, hit that subscribe button, and share your thoughts below. And hey, share this with a friend who still thinks a savings account is good enough.